It's a point whereby you basically, I would say, according to what you have learned or what you have in terms of your certifications and whatnot, I would say you are at the ceiling of things, unless somebody just has mercy on you and then they promote you to maybe being senior manager or something like that. So I felt that I needed to advance because I was, according to me, at that point in time, I was fast. I was getting, how do I put this? It's more like you're now getting a lot of money for that level, so to say, or for your qualification, such that now you may rely on experience and whatnot to get, but it's becoming difficult for you to be employed in another organization and have the same value that you have in this organization. Because in this organization, the other value that you have is that you've grown through, you've come up the ladder. So kule organization yako, you know a lot of things and you're probably valuable in this organization, but for you to market yourself in another organization other than just experience, there is not much qualification to support, if you get what I mean. So I wanted to advance in my field, which at the point I discovered analytics, data mining and analytics had become a favorite exercise for me to do, and it is what was actually adding value. But I didn't have a qualification or a certificate to substantiate my being in that field. So I felt I needed to advance. Hence, then I went to Taiwan. Unfortunately, from where I was sitting, I found that I didn't have a lot of discipline in terms of when you're looking at doing distant education or studying online. I felt like I didn't have that much discipline at that point. So I felt leaving my job and going full time for my studies was something that would probably help, something that I probably could take. There were fears where people were coming in to say, how do you know you'll get a job after that? But I think at that point in time, my thinking was, if I'm getting something that is worth it, if I'm getting a qualification that I feel is marketable, then I may not need to worry about being employed after acquiring that qualification, because I was of the thought that, if let me just talk about a feedlot. If you feed your cow the right way, you don't have to worry about it being bought after it has gained the weight that you're looking for. So that was my take, to say, if I get the right qualification and I excel at it, then I don't have to worry about who will hire me. If this is a marketable field, then definitely I should be able to get a job. So that is what I did. I went to Taiwan, did 2 years, did my stuff, came back. But that was not necessarily the case when I came back to say, I did not. I did not get sucked into the system as I had hoped. I didn't thought that I would probably stay a month without a job when I came back, but I had to stay 7 months without a job, so to say. But I think I can address that later. But in a nutshell, Sakhile, and brothers and sisters, that is how I got to decide. Would see this. I need to do something else. I need to advance. The point of departure, or the point that brought me to the decision, was a point where I felt if anybody were to hire me and pay me more for my value, apart from this organization, apart from the experience, what else would they have to look at, and would I qualify in terms of other qualifications or certifications, other than just saying this is my experience, so you should hire me and pay me more because I'm this experienced. So that was the point of departure, or that is what actually brought me to my decision. I think that should be about it. Sakhile, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. So today, my Google Meet decided not to show the video. Unfortunately, I don't know why. I probably need to tell my teams that they need to do a better job. Anyways, yeah. Thank you, Warawara, for sharing your experience. It's always great to hear from people like Warawara, and and just hear about their journey. There's a lot I can say about that. It's like a little bit about myself. Like I'm from Swaziland, as some of you know. I did my high school, everything in Swaziland, and then I came to Colorado College to study for my undergrad. I got into computer science. It was a little bit more accidental than anything else. The reason why I decided to do computer science is because my friends were telling me that they are doing it at University of Swaziland and they really like it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to college, liberal arts. You get to try anything. I tried it. It was very difficult. I almost dropped out after a year to do something different like physics. I was a lot more comfortable with physics, and unfortunately for me, a friend of mine persuaded me to stay. It was not fun. And one of the things I had to learn later on was that, grades are actually not as important as you might think. Like the very important thing for you is to learn. And so I came from Waterford High School. I was, like I did very well um, with some measure of some sort. Quite college was just a different experience. I think I ended up getting like a 3.2 GPA out of 4, which was a little bit disappointing from what I already had. And then so I applied for jobs and I applied to a lot of jobs after college and only got to like a few of them, and Google was one of them. So now I'm a software engineer at Google. And so I've been at Google for like about 8 years now. It started 2013. So the one of the things I wanted to do is to make like one of the way I felt like I needed to differentiate myself is by specializing. And so for some time I was deciding between machine learning and computer security. And because I felt like I didn't know enough about computer security and I wanted to have a business in the future, I thought maybe a way to gain credibility would be to do a master's. But looking back, there are definitely a lot more other ways I could have gone about achieving the same thing. There are certificates. So I think this is actually very important because whenever you're thinking about furthering your studies, there are other avenues you can explore. Right now, like there's online learning, so definitely explore those. There are certificates. But in my case, I just decided to do like a master's. And I also like something else to consider is that some employers actually do offer work study. So for me, like the education that I'm getting right now is about, say, I don't know, like 70,000 US dollars, but Google is paying at least half of that. So if my company is paying half of that, why not just get it? And one of the advantages I actually saw in being able to like work for like study like in a school setting like that is that you also get to collaborate with other students. And like another reason like people encourage like would choose to do say an MBA in a school is because you get to form networks with people, more especially when you're trying to go into like the leadership positions. It's like the way I look at it is sometimes like it becomes less about what you know, and it becomes it's about the people that you know, because your next opportunity would likely come from someone that you know. So those are definitely things to keep in mind when you are deciding for your next opportunity. um, and just try to do more research. So computer security right now is there's just like a lot that you need to know about it, but there's YouTube. Just go from you like go on YouTube and learn what other people say about the field. When you're studying computer science, you don't like say security, you don't have to be a programmer. You can be a product manager, you can be a program manager, you can be a pen tester, you can be a security engineer. So just go online and try to learn about the field as much as you can. Yeah, with that, I'll give it to Nondumiso to share her perspective.
Thank you, Sakhile. Hi, everyone. I am Nondumiso from Swaziland. I think it's a privilege, I'll say. I'm a sister to Sakhile. So with me, um, I did my high school in here in Swaziland, and I had an opportunity to go to South Africa and did my matric there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to varsity straight from grade 12. So I had many gap years during my years before college. But at the end of the day, in 2015, I went to University of KwaZulu Natal in Durban, Westville campus, where I applied for BCom. When I applied for BCom, I was thinking of accounting. The first thing that came into my mind, I'm applying for BCom and I'm going to do accounting. But when I reached there, I wasn't accepted for the accounting BCom, but I was accepted for the finance economics BCom. I was a bit disappointed, but I would say it was an accident that I feather in in that degree. Actually, I ended up loving it because it was something different, something that I haven't thought about in my lifetime. In the accounting department, I only knew that when you're doing accounting, you have to do the financial books, financial statements. That's all about the standards and all that. But I discovered that finance is and accounting. It's a broad study, and I was interested in it, and I ended up loving it. My journey in college in university wasn't it wasn't a smooth start, I would say, because I categorized myself as a middle student, so to say. I never thought that I was capable of doing the most. What came onto me was it was kind of an encouragement from Sakhile, because most of the time he will ask, what mark have you got in this module? And I will say 50, and he will be like, why would you have done differently for you to get a bigger mark or a most variable mark than the one that you got? So each time when I thought of having to answer that, to me it was kind of like a challenge, because I didn't have a reason to say I didn't get a good mark because of this. So for me, it started off as wanting to do it started as if I wanted to impress him. At first, that was the mandate. I wanted to impress him so that when he asked me questions like what you got, and I will say I got a 70. And I thought maybe he will be like, oh, that's a good mark. But unfortunately, it wasn't the case. He would be like, oh, why not an 85? Why not a 90? So to me, it was like, no, it's not about getting a mark, but it's doing the best. So it came on to me that I'm not a middle student. There is nothing saying I am middle. A middle, like I cannot do average. I can do the most. I can do what I set my mind to do. So everything started like that, and I think I was doing my second year, if I'm not mistaken. I did I my first semester, when the exam came and the results came, and I saw myself getting good marks, I was like, I am capable. In grade 12, I actually failed maths. I actually failed. I got a level 2 in a way that I had to redo it again. So in my mind, I thought I don't know maths. Like maths is not my thing. But surprisingly, when I got my mind in doing what I'm supposed to do, and in putting my mindset and having a goal in what I want, and what I set my mind to doing. I actually, maths was actually the best subject that I passed. I think I got a distinction. Why that's the reason why I got the golden key certificate. I actually got a distinction in maths, and to me, that was an eye opener, saying I can do anything that I set my mind to do. There is nothing that I cannot do. That's when I ask myself, what more can I do? What can I is having an honors in finance and economics enough? Is it what I want? Is it going to get where I want? What I want is becoming an investment analyst. That's in my heart. So I asked myself that having an honors, what differentiating is it making me from any other person that is here in my class when I was doing my honors? And I told myself, no, it's fine for now, because I've obtained an honors degree. If maybe I get a job, my first priority, I want to do CFA. So that was my mandate. Doing CFA for me, what is a way of differentiating what I can offer. It's actually putting value. If I'm putting myself clear, I actually adding value in what I have. Having an honors for me wasn't enough to get me the career that I want, because at the end of the day, I would love to have a career, not just a job which I can wake up from every morning and going to and getting paid for. So at the end of the day, I wanted a career that I'm going to wake up every day and thinking about it and having a new challenge when going to it. So that's why I further to CFA. So for me, what I can say worked or made me accomplish, or what's making me to accomplish most of the things that I want to accomplish is having a goal. Because I don't think when one doesn't have a goal will do anything, or will even think of doing something different, or rather than what they have at that moment. I think that's one thing that's for me, it's sticking up and being positive. Uh, Being negative, sometimes it goes a long way. You become negative to yourself. You become negative to yourself. You think about something, the first thing that you think about is negative. So I think being positive in anything that you decide is the best thing that you can go. Being positive and having a goal. That's what I can say. It's working for me. And I think that's going to be one thing that's going to be working for me from now. I think so. Thank you, Sakhile.
Okay, I think Nondumiso has already covered the the second question. I'm not sure if she intended that or no. So the second question was, what worked well for you during the study? So what we got from Nondumiso was that just being positive, and like believing in yourself. I think um, so. Yeah, like Nondumiso said, she is my real sister actually. Um, uh, uh, One of the things I noticed is that it's like the hardest thing and the best thing that can happen to a person is for them to get to a point where they actually believe that they can do most of the things that they want to do. And what actually helped me, I think, it was my dad. My dad used to come to my school every, I don't know, every term to check my marks. So my studying also started as a way to actually like close that gap and impress him, to say that I cannot let this guy come all the way from Gunvini to Evelyn Bering and go back home empty-handed. So I guess like that's just how it's. You can also think of that as you know, as an older person in your household. Always think of like reaching to the young ones, because you know, like you know, just sharing that experience and encouraging each other. You know, so Nondumiso like qualified for a scholarship to do a master's. That's what the golden key actually means. But unfortunately, because of COVID-19 and all of that, things have been delayed. So that's very encouraging, and it's really good to hear. So now, like, I would like to go to the topic of what worked for me and what's working for me as I'm studying right now. So this is actually a bit of a, you know, I think it's very important, because a lot of you here, like in school, you are asking yourselves, like, you know, like, what can I actually do to do well in school? Like, you know, like what practical tools can I use? Um, you know, besides being positive, that's a very big factor. So one of the things that I actually noticed, something that's very practical that you can use, is that schools usually have tutors. The professors sometimes like have office hours. It's actually very important for you to use those things. um, I used to ask my, like, even back in high school, like I used to go to my teacher, Evelyn Bering and Waterford, um, you know, like here at UC Berkeley. I'm doing the same thing. Make sure you go to those office hours, ask questions. Don't let those teachers go without asking them questions, because if you do that, then they are getting paid for not doing enough. I mean, imagine just someone going in class and talking for an hour and then going home. So ask them as many questions as you need to. So something else that you can consider is to work in groups. Find people who are very motivated, who can help you with your studying. And so one of the classes I just recently finished, what we were doing is that given a homework question, this was a math question, like a math class. We will go individually do the homework, and then once everything is done, we come and compare our answers. This is for homework. It's not for exams. Exams don't compare your answers. So the reason why that helps is because, okay, first of all, homeworks, they account for a CA, right? So like continuous assessment, they constitute like a big part of that. And also, if you are able to learn as much as you can from a homework, come exam time, you will already know what you know and what you don't know. So make sure you use your friends as much as possible. And also, you know, like these are friends, like you're connecting with people that you'll be with in school, and these are people that you'll likely be with when you go to work as well, who are going to help you out in the future. And then so in terms of like how to manage your time, like one of my friends like left a comment recently on the Facebook post. He said one of the most important thing is learning how to manage your time. This is a skill that you will actually also need at work. So one of the things that like I've seen this with computer science, like they will give you a home, like say a project mid semester, and say, hey, go finish this project, and you actually don't start it until the last week. That week, we had a teacher at the University of Swaziland who said that weekend might not be enough. Some people will wait for that Sunday. That Sunday might not be enough. So make sure you start as early as possible. If the homework is due, say, within 3 weeks, make sure that each week you divide your time into thirds, and say that, okay, within a third, I should have like within like a week. If it's 3 weeks, within 1 week I should have finished half a third of the work, and then in the second week I should finish 2/3 of the work, and then the last week I should finish everything. What it helps is that if you judge your milestones based on the work that you should have finished, it helps you ahead of time to figure out if you're gonna be able to finish your work on time or not. Most of the times we underestimate how much time it actually it takes to accomplish a task. This applies at work as well. So always create milestone that says, divide the time, like the task, into the amount of time you have, and within that amount of time you should finish, like that proportional, the proportion of the work. And so one of the things I learned in college too is that it's easy to get distracted. You always try to focus on the thing that you're learning in class. One of the biggest takeaways is that I realized that when I was taking one class, I will be interested in something else. And because of that, I would find later on that I actually needed the skill, and I now need the skill of the thing I was not fully focused on at that particular time. So try to focus on one thing at a time. I recently talked to someone at I think this picture is disturbing me. You have people popping up Cornelius. So um, yeah, can you switch off your video, Cornelius? I think that might help. Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so try to, as much as possible, to focus. And so the other thing too, like the last thing I'll say, like whenever you are given an assignment, try to, as much as possible, to actually understand what's required of you. Like in my class right now, I'm seeing a lot of people who are working too hard, working way harder than what's expected from like the assignment. Try as much as possible to understand what the question is asking. Sometimes people like work too hard and they are actually not even like fulfilling the requirements of the question, and they end up as like getting half of the marks they deserve, yet they did more of the I wish I can give a good example of this, but always try to understand like the exact amount of work that's actually required. Yeah. I think the last thing that yeah, go ahead. I'll try to give the floor to Warawara and just for him to let us know what worked for him during his study.
Okay. Thank you, Sakhile. I wasn't too sure. I saw a hand at some point in time, and I wasn't too sure whether maybe we should interact, because I'm thinking sometimes people then tend to forget their questions. But I think if we write them down, and then we'll maybe probably engage later on those. I think coming back to the question, how one coped when I think with myself, first of all, creating the pressure, when you know that you've left your job and you went for a master's, um, when you eventually get tired, you from class, you're tired sometimes, so the English that we get from the other side of the continent is not English that we're probably used to hearing from our side. So the way the Asians speak their English is a bit different, and so sometimes you just have all these other issues. But when you think of the fact that I left my job, I was earning money, but here I'm now a student and I just have to live on the small change. It creates pressure for you. Like when you want to sleep, you think of the sacrifices that you've made. So that pressure alone uh, just kept me going. And also, when you're learning new subjects, there are certain things that when you're at work, you find yourself now aligned to one way of thinking. Like you're aligned to, if you into analytics, you're doing analytics every day. But when you at school, you have got courses that you must take, and some of these courses are not things that you probably were doing, you were exposed to at work. So you find that sometimes there are issues that you're finding there, difficulty in understanding, or even having difficulty in coming up with the proper solutions. What I found to be useful is that you just need to keep going. By that I mean, do not give yourself rest on that particular course. Just keep going. Sometimes it's not about a test, it's not about an assignment, it's not about just watching a documentary on that subject. Maybe talking about, maybe I'm just programming, just an example of programming. Just go into YouTube, watch a documentary about how programming came about, who was the first programmer, what was the first language, and stuff and stuff. You know, the more you get to acquaint yourself with the subject, sometimes some of the issues later on in the subject matter become revision. You know, some of the things you find that you already knew, or you can now join the dots with what you are actually checking. So basically, I found that to be useful to tell yourself, like, I'll come back to the issue or the subject of computer science. I was discussing with someone, and I'm saying the reason, some of you will know I'm now into academics, so I'm a lecturer at university. So I was discussing with one lecturer who did his undergrad in maths, but is taking a few courses that they're teaching in computer science. Of course, they can program, because in mathematics, you also do programming when you're programming for whatever sums that you're doing there. There's MATLAB and the likes. So you can program, and maybe you can say something about programming. But what I was saying is that the reason we prefer people who have done an undergrad in the subject matter is that as you are studying your computer science, the program is training you how to think like a computer scientist. So it's not necessarily about you being able to solve a problem through a program, but it is about you having the backbone of a computer scientist. When you respond, or when you react to issues, or when you respond to challenges, or when you are solving problems, we have taught you how to solve problems the way a computer scientist does. The same applies to engineering. The same applies to the different fields. When you've been doing accounts, and there's so many of these courses in accounting, you are being trained how to think like an accountant, how to solve problems as an accountant does. So I'm saying, when I say you keep working on it, I mean, make sure that whatever you're doing, whenever you're thinking, whenever you're interacting, make sure you stick to the subject matter. That will enhance, that will help you when you eventually have to solve other problems, or that will help you when you eventually have to deal other issues within the subject matter. You will have the backbone of coming back to computer scientists, to computer science, you will have the backbone of a computer scientist. So keep working on it, keep going on that subject matter. Eventually, that will help you in the long run, because the way you process things, the way you naturally, you'll find yourself processing things as a computer scientist. So I think the most important thing that kept me going is to keep on the subject matter. There are people who are doing computer science, I'll make an example, but they're so passionate about sports, you know, they're so passionate about other things, such that they only think that computer science in class. They only think that about that programming when they're in class. When they're out of the class, you know, they have this normal life. They've got this their joining system and whatnot. You know, you've got your other life out of class. What worked for me is to ensure that at all times you stick to the subject matter. You know, at all times you're a student, you're doing this course, you're here for this. To the extent that just before we graduated, I even had a dream at some point in time where I was thinking, I dreamt not coming back with the master's, you know, with the master's certificate, just to show how obsessed I was with the thing. To say, you know what, at all points in time, I kept thinking about what I left this country for. So I think that kept me going, and that I found that useful. Of course, the way in which we study and the likes, I think just to bring it all together, I would say the fact that I just told myself, even when I'm looking at a computer, or even when I'm sitting trying to relax, it was always at the back of my head to know that, hey, I'm here to ace this thing. I'm here to bring this one home. So I think that mentality of being focused on what you're doing and not deviating, or maybe being pushed to the other sides, as you see the other sides of life. You know, you're in a first world country, you're getting to know certain things, you're meeting new friends and the like. but I think sticking to the subject matter helps. Over to you, Sakhile.
Okay, great. Thank you, Warawara, for walking us through your journey. Um, it's definitely great to hear from people like Warawara. So now, as you can see, I'm working from the office. So we can give people maybe 5 minutes to just ask questions. Those on live or those asking from Facebook Live, from Facebook Live. Yeah. Feel free to just put your question there. I think Sanele had a question here. We can probably go through that or question or comment.
Good day, everybody. I just have a question for Warawara and Sakhile. You know, when I get to University of Pretoria, there was like new stuff to learn, almost different new stuff to learn. Like I have to do on my research. I was thinking of digital forensics, but only to find I had to implement some machine learning stuff. So I was so, but right now I'm average. But at the beginning, I was so intimidated in the fact that I told my supervisor, what about if I change my research? He said, no, you can't change. So I just want to ask, how do you cope with new stuff? Because I understand when you are going for masters, definitely there will be new stuff, especially Warawara. He mentioned that you did something like data mining for sure, and Sakhile on his security, there should be cryptography. How do you deal with new stuff in your career?
Yeah, go ahead, Warawara.
I was about to say, go ahead, Sakhile. Okay. Okay, maybe first of all, doing your masters and the like, or maybe advancing, you do want to understand that the supervisor plays a role, and more often than not, you will have to do to some level what the supervisor wants. Yes, you must both be agreeable, you must both be on the same page, but definitely the supervisor also has some things that they want to achieve through you. So that is the first point that you need to understand. It will help your mind to understand that whatever new stuff or whatnot that you are being exposed to, there is some level that you must reach the supervisor's satisfaction. You know, the supervisor, you must be able to romance the supervisor to satisfaction on that new stuff. But the way in which you go about it, of course, they talk about the stages of learning, whereby first of all it makes absolutely no sense and you probably don't care, and then there's a level whereby it makes no sense but now you care, and then there's that level whereby you care, you grasping a certain things, you're losing some, and then there's the final level whereby you become a master. And the only way to keep going at it, the only way to win is to keep going at it. Initially, it will not make sense. And then when you start getting exposed, it will be difficult. But the more you keep going, you know how you learn how to drive. Initially, you don't know how to drive. You only know about the steering wheel. You don't know what goes on in the legs there. And you don't know what this gear is for. You just know that it's being pushed from side to side. But the more you get exposed, when you come in the car, when you change the gear, the car takes the other 10 and the like, but you need to keep going at it. And when you do that, then the new stuff no longer becomes new. It becomes, oh yeah, the same old story, you know. So myself, I would say, just keep going at it. The more hours you give to it, there is a correlation between the time you give to it and the ease. The more you give it time, the more easier it becomes. Yeah, I think that one would be that is what I would say. Not too sure, Sakhile.
I mean, I totally agree with Warawara. It's very uncomfortable to learn something new. I I mean, like I mentioned earlier here that I started computer science in college. I didn't even know what it was. I felt stupid the entire time. Um, and I always, so Colorado College had a system, they call it the block plan, where you take one class at a time. And so you do that for 3.5 weeks. I always felt like I was a day behind. I remember one time there was like, like new students who, it's students who are just checking out the college, and they call them prospector students. And the professor was explaining to this prospector student what we have been doing the past 2 weeks. I did not understand a single thing the guy was saying. Yet I was in the class for 2 weeks. I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what this guy is talking about. And one class I took, I was a junior. What happened? I decided to take the class in. It was a computer graphics class. I decided to take it in C++. The rest of the class was doing it in Java. I asked permission from the teacher. He allowed me. It was terrible, and I couldn't finish it on time. Luckily, the teacher gave me time to actually finish it. He gave me. So the thing is, like, I think the focus has to be beyond what you are currently going through, and be more about, it's because after your first job, I remember someone made a very important comment that stuck with me. He said, after the first job, no one will actually care if you got an A or a B or a C or a D in your class, as long as you are passing. So it's like, allow yourself to learn. It's going to be very uncomfortable, but if you allow yourself to learn, you are growing. So that's what I would say. And actually, when I applied at Google, I thought I was just like, doing it just for the sake of doing it. But I ended up getting hired there. My actual plan was to go to Columbia University and do a 3-2, they call it a 32 program, where I was going to do like parts of undergraduate again, because I felt like I sucked. So sometimes, like, it's your interpretation of what it means to suck is actually different from the reality of you just learning and growing, because that's like something that's going to help you years. Don't, like I told you, like earlier, I was thinking about changing my major to physics because that's what I was more comfortable with. But I had friends. I had one friend who was doing his last year in physics, and he actually quit because he was like, as a computer science person, I can actually earn more money than doing this physics thing. He was doing his physics in Boulder, Colorado. He was a very smart guy. Now he does computer science. Imagine quitting your last year of physics because you realize that this thing that you're doing is actually not going to help you. So yeah, but like, he was also actually part of the reason why I was thinking to switch back to physics, because he was talking a lot. I was like, this guy is not that good. I know I can get the same marks, but if I was doing things just so that I can be like him, now he did the things that I was doing back then, and now I earn way more. I was earning way more money than him, or than he will ever actually ever make it doing physics. Yeah, so keep focused. So the last question that we want to touch on is, what are you doing to prepare yourself for what are you doing, and what have you done in the past to prepare yourself for your next opportunity? I'll give this chance to Nondumiso to lead us through.
Okay, for me now, I work in one of the financial institutions in Swaziland. So having getting the job in this financial institute was by chance, I would say, and I never thought I would get an opportunity. Actually, I never thought they had something that would excite me to have a job with them. But actually, as a day go by, you learn and you discover various opportunities in a company. So to reach the career that I really want, as I have mentioned earlier, I really want to pursue a career in investment analysis. One of the reasons why I took a stand and did start doing my certificate that I'm doing right now is becoming relevant to what I want, having the relevant skills on paper, which is education. I think having the qualification for me, having the qualification, not having the specific job or the specific institution that I will get the career that I will pursue my career in is more important now. Having the education that I need to score that career for me is more important. So putting more energy on having the qualification that I will need to pursue that career I want. I think for me that's the best that I can do now, because in a stance that we're in now, right now in Swaziland, I've done my research. The few organizations that are offering the investment department, which means I have to go an extra mile to make myself marketable even outside the country. So that's my goal. It's being doing the extraordinary that can make myself be different to anyone else, which what I can put my mind into now is the education that I have to acquire. And I think for me, having that education will put me in a stance that I'll be able to get the opportunity that I want in the organization that I would want to work in. So for me, I think that's one thing that's working. That's one thing that's motivating me. That's one thing that I'm doing, is getting the good mark that I can get and getting the best qualification that I get in the investment analysis department. So yeah, I think for me is that I can think of now. That's what I'm putting myself into.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Nondumiso. Appreciate it. Wara. And so also just to remind people here, we can stay here for a little bit longer. Ask your questions over there where we're listening for them. And then just go ahead. Warawara, it's so the question that we are on is like how am I preparing myself for the next opportunity, and or maybe how have you prepared yourself for the opportunities that you have at the moment?
Okay, thank you, Sakhile. That one is it's a broad question. Um, how do I prepare myself for the next opportunities? I think I'm at I think we are at an advantage in the sense that there's quite a lot happening in terms of the technology space where we are right now. But I think there's been a lot of learning that I've done ever since I came back from Taiwan. I told guys that I had to spend some 7 months without getting a formal job. So I started running a few errands in terms of businesses, so to say. So I started stuff from scratch. Started selling pork, cutting grass. What else? Eventually running some small trucking business. I've had to do a number of things where I learned where I went through what business people go through and what the ordinary entrepreneur goes through. And I've had to take a few of some learnings whereby I got to understand that a number of businesses are not making it because very few people are looking at the numbers, which basically is one of the things that brought me into data mining. So I found that there's a lot of schooling that needs to be done. A lot of people need to be made aware of why numbers are important. You know, in certain organizations, you find that there are a lot of people doing analytics and some other people doing your MIS, but you find that at the top there, you know, the CEOs and the likes, some of the people are not necessarily looking at the numbers. The numbers are not being used to make decisions. The numbers are not being used. The numbers are not talking. And in certain instances, you find that it's just a department, but nobody is actually, even before they make a decision, they do not find clarity. In some instances, they're not even taking the right information. Making an example about, I was just thinking about this COVID that we're going through right now in Swaziland. You know, there could be a relationship, or there could be a correlation between the weather and the number of deaths. I'm just making an example. You may find that when it's raining, more people die from COVID than when it's not raining. But you may find that this information is not being captured. No one is capturing the weather on the day where we've got 19 people dying, such that when we have to go in and maybe do some mining there, nobody is going to be able to give us that information to say that, hey, has anybody realized that when it is a rainy day, more people are going to die as opposed to when it's a sunny day, such that we can even probably be able to anticipate or even predict what is going to be happening in the future. So right now, what one is doing is to analyze and see basically where one can intervene, especially on such on such spaces where there are gaps. And most of the things, or maybe more often than not, you find that in order for this field to be appreciated, because there are a number of companies, you know, when you do data mining and you are told that it's the new data is the new gold, and then you come back to Swaziland, you find that, hey, nobody knows that you've got gold. Hence, you find yourself not being employed for 3 months or even 5 months or some even a year. We know other people who have not been having formal jobs for a year, yet they've got the analytics, they've got your mathematics, they've got your, you know. So right now, what we are doing is trying to sensitize people on the importance of what we have studied. And most often than not, that needs volunteering. You need to get data from, just tell me, so what do you do here, you know? So let me get this information from you and see what I can do for you. So for now, it's giving out analytics or giving out your work. It may look for free, but when eventually people get to learn the value of what you are carrying and with the value that you are adding to their business, then they may appreciate, and then that may then change to more ching going into the till. I usually say till, meaning you know, when you're in a shop, when you don't hear that machine making that sound, it means there is no money going in. So when we give freely our services at the moment, then before you know it, there'll be more crying of the till, so to say. So the other thing that I'm doing now that I'm in academics, I'm looking into doing a PhD. We're currently doing applications right now. Because we need to advance in the field, and also we need to make ourselves more valuable. There's value then in having a PhD around, because if we are in this forum and there's Dr. Wara and the others, you know, it has more weight, even in meetings, even in boards, you know, they value your opinion if they know that you have actually spent more years studying or going into the subject matter in that field. I think that in a nutshell, that is all I would say.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you, Wara and Nondumiso, just, you know, taking us through your journey on what you're doing to prepare yourself for the next career. So Nondumiso spoke about some important things here. Look for opportunities within your company. Make sure, and Warawara mentioned this, almost something similar on how you can, like it's more like you're selling yourself. And this actually, what I mentioned here is that. So here's how I usually like put this: is that when a job is an exchange for value that you are giving someone, they pay you. That's the payment, the salary. They pay you for putting value into their company. They the exchange happens like when you get hired. What's happening is that someone realized that there is value that you can bring into the company. So how then do you show that you can provide that value? First of all, like there's some work that you might have to do for free. Some of the work that I did for free was creating a web climber website. So always look for those opportunities where you can actually get to practice. Don't think that an interview also is not just like when you're going into the interview, it's more like, like an athlete when they have been training for a long time and there's an event where they just go and perform. Like it's not like when there's a World Cup or like Olympics, people just train like the month before the exam. Like people start training like years before that. So always keep that in mind, that like the next opportunity is not just gonna come overnight. You're not gonna study today and tomorrow or next month or like for a month and be great. So all of these things take time. Um, so what am I doing? So like things I've done when I was in college was, like this free work, and also working for some of the services that we had in college. I sometimes I think that an internship that I got through like some professors that were known to my friends while I was in college might have helped me get a job in Google, because that looked like I had a reasonable experience. So always look for experience and connect with the people like at work. So one of the things that I am currently doing just at my job, I try not to be shy. I talk a lot. And part of the reason why I do that is because I want to have people be aware of what I can provide, the skill that I can provide, and also like look for mentorships. Like sometimes, like people who have been in the company who are a bit senior than you, they can actually give you good advice on how you can grow. Look for feedback, because one of the things I've seen, for example, is like people like like they're not aware that there's a difference between busy work and useful work. You don't get promoted based on busy work. You get promoted on useful work that you're providing for the company. So and it's sometimes it's not easy as like a junior person or to know what's actually like impactful or not, because like that's how you're gonna get promoted. So right now, one of the things that I'm preparing myself for the next opportunity. Here's my motivation, right? When I first started working at Google, like in terms of South African rent, I'll say maybe I was making, 100,000 per month. Like that's like 8 years ago. And time has gone by, like the money has gone up. I recently saw a guy who's making 500,000 rands, not dollars, rands per month, like roughly speaking, because that's like 500,000 US dollars per year. So multiply that by 10 or 15, whatever, like whichever amount of money is that. So now imagine that there's someone who's earning 400,000, 500,000 per month. So computer science, at least in the Bay Area, has a lot of money. And so my goal is, how do I place myself well for those kinds of opportunities where I'm earning, say, 400,000 per month, I'm earning 500,000 per month. And I think I can be able to do that by next year, even now, if I wanted to. So part of it, how do you actually get to that? Part of what you're doing there is saying how do you connect with the people around you? How do you reach out to um, and also just be very careful, because like the thing I was talking about, like busy work, your next opportunity is going to come because you have solved some problems that tell you that show the next employer that you are ready for the next opportunity. So how are you getting yourself ready for that opportunity? Connect to the people, the work that you're doing, make sure it aligns with what you want to do in the future. Always question yourself, how is this thing that I'm doing today actually preparing me for the next opportunity? So be always very careful about that. Yeah, and always like look stuff online, YouTube, look at what other people are doing, what it took for them to get to that point. There's lots of information out there. Yeah. We can take like a couple of questions from folks, and call it a day. It's actually my lunchtime right now. Okay. No more questions. Any thoughts, final thoughts from Warawara and Nondumiso?
Okay, for me, the final thing that I would say, one can never predict what's the future hold, but as I've mentioned earlier, having a positive mind never hurts, and having a positive mind would never minus or take anything away from you. So having a positive mindset will always set you free sometimes, and doing your best in everything that you do. Just do your best, because what would you gain and next day knowing that I would have maybe started an hour more, and then you'll find out that the thing that you would have studied an hour more, the next paper has covered it. So don't have regrets. Do the best that you can. Never limit yourself just because you think you have done enough. If you tell yourself you have done enough and you know you haven't done enough, just do it. Because nothing actually is not doable. Everything is doable if you put your mind in it. Everything. And do your best in everything that you do. It's not keep it in. So my mom would say.
Hayi, siyabonga Nondumiso. War, mavekti.
Okay, thank you so much, Sakhile. Thank you so much to our our guests, if I may say. What I can say as a parting comment is that I was talking to one of the friends around, and I was saying, from a discussion that we had with Sakhile actually the other day, I was saying, sometimes you find that the certain opportunities you just can't compare. Me being in Swaziland and somebody working in South Africa, probably doing the same job, one can compare and say, you probably earn twice as much in terms of salaries. But when you compare with another country, maybe when I compare with Sakhile, you find that I can't compare. Doing the same job, probably exactly the same deliverables and everything, you find that you just can't compare. It's incomparable. Even trying to compare is just a waste of time. So my take is, sometimes you find that where you are may stifle you, may actually bring you down in certain instances, but you are not a tree. You are not supposed to die where you were planted. You are free. You can move. You know, even birds do this thing. Even elephants. You find elephants migrating from one place to another, looking for better opportunities, if I may say. But you find people trying to be stuck in one place. You have to stay in Hlangano and die in Hlangano. Here is a boy from Kundwini, studied in Hlangano, went to the States, working. I'm trying to say, we are not stuck where we are, guys. Let us do all we can. Life is short, and COVID has just shown us that, this moment you could be planning for the rest of your life, only to find that you only have a week to the rest of your life. And there's no more rest of your life beyond a week. So guys, let's try to push. Let's enlarge our territories, and let us try to achieve all we can within our short space of life, and be all that we can before we leave, no matter how much time we've got remaining. I think those would be my parting comments.
I think it looks like George has a question here, or a comment.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, George.
So sorry.
Yeah. All right. Why am I even laughing? I don't know. So, but anyway, thanks guys for the platform. So, just what Waras has said. I think we once had a discussion. Was it last year or 20 something? But we once had a discussion about it. I think that was when Waras was coming from Taiwan. All right. So another thing that I usually post about on Facebook is opportunities that are now based on. I usually say you can stay in Kuvu while you do a job for a company in California. What do I mean about what's happening in the tech space? It's becoming one thing, more like music, whereby you are evaluated by what you can do, okay? And then another thing that is happening is some opportunities right now are all over the world, like are remote. I've seen, okay, I'm more interested in the crypto space, so I've seen this job. I've seen these jobs whereby you can be anywhere in the world, and then you'll be earning the parts that Sakhile was like discussing about. So, but then what will allow you that opportunity is the skill. Now you no longer need the privilege that Sakhile has, or myself have, of being in South Africa, or Sakhile has of being in the rest, or like some of the people here, they were living in the better countries where opportunities are available. What I'm trying to say is you can be in Swaziland and be a master of your craft when it comes to, okay, I'm specifically talking about the tech space. You can be a master of your craft and find yourself working for an overseas company, getting big bucks while living there in Kuvukile. And then another thing like that I usually post about to encourage people who are really interested in technology. When I say technology, that includes computer science, right? Or I usually say IT. Elon Musk is having Starlink. Okay, now Starlink is expensive. Only the privileged can afford it. But as time goes on, some of you right now are listening to us or to this interview or to this conversation on smartphones, and the smartphone, you didn't break a bank to afford the smartphone. What is going to happen is accessing quality, reliable, super high-speed internet from the sky, as time goes on, it will be cheaper or it will be more affordable. Like most of you here, you are not listening to this on iPhone 11 or Samsung, the latest Samsung. You're just listening to a normal Huawei phone, but it's quality. So what I'm trying to say is, so the fact that you are not studying at UCT or UP or somewhere overseas, you are just in Swaziland, work with what you have. And when these opportunities, as time comes, they will find you already ready, and the opportunity will be there for you. So grow your curiosity and grow your passion, and it will take you further. Okay, let me not speak like a motivational speaker. That's what I'm trying to say, Guti. From what Warawara is saying, Guti, you are not a tree. Sometimes you find that lokuba you being not a tree, it's not literally based on you're not a tree. You have to migrate from Swaziland to South Africa, Australia, or New Zealand, or whatever. But you can be where you are if you've been mastering your craft. Here comes an opportunity when they want a person to do job ABC, and you get that job for an overseas well-paying company or a contract if you're a contractor to do whatever. And now your skills are evaluated on what you can do. You understand? So what I'm trying to say, I'm cutting it now. Work your craft wherever you are. Don't be limited by the fact that you are there in Kuvukil and blah, blah, blah. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm done.
Siyabonga, George. So this is George from the Slusa na itimbuti mbamba.
Yeah, for those who understand this one.
It's yeah, I mean it's people like, so someone here actually asked a question earlier. He said, do you need to study computer science, go undergrad for you to get into computer science? There are lots of other fields, by the way, that you can focus on, but you don't. And George here is like a very good example of that. George, because he was at UCT and he felt like he was wasting his time, and he was like, I can just teach myself all of these things. So he quit and then decided to go. Now he works in the Vodacom and stuff. So I think sometimes you can be a lot more creative with your career, and more especially because there's all these online things. So keep your eyes open for more opportunity.
Give me 30 seconds on that.
I sing you
So can give me 30 seconds.
I know, this is right. Yeah, I think Senyaval, I'm at work. Yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming here. We really appreciate you showing up. We hope that whatever we shared today here was helpful to you. And do follow up with us. We'll try to help you through your journey as much as we can. And hopefully our stories have also encouraged you. There's nothing magical that we are doing. Like I mean, one of the like when I'm here in the United States, one of like the things that were very intimidating, like we grow up knowing like abantu abamhlophe are better than us. Ever since because it's office but that was a bang vaccine. So it's like what I'm saying is that you have everything that it takes to be successful, and you have all the tools basically. So take that make that your advantage and just go win. Let's do it. I thank you, everyone. I thank you. Thank you, Wara. Thank you, George, and thank you, everyone else, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.